What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. One of my audience members asked me and said, what is it about Metacritic? Is it one of those platforms where whenever the scores are favorable, you actually like Metacritic? Or when the scores are, in a sense, unfavorable to a game that you're enjoying, then you no longer like Metacritic? I answered and told him that the reality was I used to probably be one of those people who looked at Metacritic and took what the platform actually did provide at face value until Gotham Knights. That game broke the internet. A lot of people came out of the woodworks. Some of them were superhero games fans, but some others were just bad actors. They made the game look like it was the worst thing ever in the whole wide world. And so when they went on Metacritic, they got to see a lot of people pretty much giving their opinions. Many of them, we couldn't be sure if they even played Gotham Knights. Some people love to just hate anything that they probably can't get their hands on in some cases. And then in some cases, if it doesn't fit, say, the little mold that they've made up in their minds. Now, the problem we have with Metacritic is it doesn't have a verification system so far. And I think this has become the biggest problem. Now, it's not like they're not trying. They're trying, but it's also really difficult to be able to moderate a lot of these people. Now, before this even, there was a report, and this wasn't necessarily just a report. I did see the tweet itself. Somebody tweeted and said before Starfield came out that they were working on creating 1,000 accounts to review bomb Starfield. That tweet is out there. And the person said, we're doing it because we're going to take revenge for The Last of Us Part 2. Now, whomever must have review bombed The Last of Us Part 2, I don't think it was just Xbox fans. Many people are trying to go ahead and make it seem like that, but we all know that The Last of Us Part 2 had major story points actually leak, which may have triggered trolls on the internet. So if anybody wants to blame it on, say, the Xbox people, that's your business, but we're not going to pretend and act like there were not other factors that probably triggered people to go ahead and review bomb them. Nonetheless, if we're looking at these reviews here on Metacritic from users, you'll realize that a lot of these folk that have created these accounts have some kind of a negative review towards, say, either Starfield or maybe other games that they've recently played, or maybe they decided to recently review today. One example is, say, if we just pick anyone here, let's just do Done Did It, which is an account here. You'll realize that they created they did a Starfield review today and gave it a 0 out of 10. Then they did a Hogwarts Legacy review today. So they finished playing Hogwarts Legacy today, gave it an 8. And then at the same time they remembered, oh, you know what? I beat Final Fantasy. Let me give it a review too. And then they were like, you know what? Let's go to Far Cry 6. And in September 7th, all of these reviews, there are only 4 reviews on their accounts, were all created today. So a review like this is more than likely not one that we should bother taking into account because it's just a fugazi. This person has a Forza Horizon review that was created on September 7th as well, and a State of Decay review. So they gave this Forza a 10, which to me seems like this is a way to kind of say, oh, maybe they're not a PlayStation fan. If you notice, there's a trend of, say, games that are Xbox games only, and it's the only reviews that have been given, which most of them were given September 7th. And then they have the Redfall one at 1, Starfield at 2, Sea of Stars at 9. They've probably already beaten Sea of Stars by now while still playing Starfield, or they were able to beat Starfield as well. So you start to see these little things. And I'm so happy that everyone is now, in my opinion, behind this notion that Metacritic has a busted methodology of actually taking user reviews. This is why when I was talking about Gotham Knights, I argued extensively that one place that you can find who actually is giving you the very best information in regard to user scores is a place like Steam. This actually gives you player time. It tells you how long they played the game. It tells you what kind of, review they even had. If it's a pre-release review or if it's a review after the release, it even tells you the most recent reviews and is able to break things down much better. So if you needed review scores and you went to Metacritic, you would have a whole different perspective if you looked at just the score compared to looking at exactly what it is that, is going on. And I would hate that anybody would even go back and do this petty little nonsense, which, some people are already saying, well, Spider-Man might get review bombed. I doubt it. I think people are going to behave themselves with that. And so here's my question for that audience member of mine or whoever may be asking. I think there might be, and this is my opinion, a little bit of a jealousy type air that's coming from the PlayStation side. Now, if you think that that's not the case, I would like for you to answer 2 questions for me. Number 1, if you're a PlayStation aficionado, or maybe you're really invested in the platform, How did you feel when Microsoft acquired Bethesda? I know that was actually a much more shocking, bit of news, because it just happened out of nowhere. It was a quiet transaction that took place up until the final papers were signed. That's when we got the announcement. So how did you feel about that? And then number two, if you are also a PlayStation player, how did you feel about the news that Starfield was actually going to be a timed PlayStation exclusive, but then it kind of made Microsoft go ahead to purchase Bethesda to be able to keep Starfield as an exclusive? How did those two pieces of information ever, how did you visualize them, or how did you perceive them? If you don't care about either of them, then you shouldn't care about Starfield anyways, because, PlayStation games do sell well. Their games do well. So I see a lot of PlayStation fans that seem like, oh, they're making fun of Starfield. What you're saying when you do that is you actually do care whether or not Starfield does well, because in some, way, shape, or form, it maybe validates your decision to have not gone with the Xbox ecosystem or something. And I understand, that's why I have a PlayStation and I also play on PC, because I didn't want to miss out on any of the games that I was actually looking forward to. So I get it. But let's not pretend here in this particular ecosystem, especially as, either PlayStation or Xbox, aficionados or whatever it is anybody wants to call themselves, that they don't necessarily care about how these things, present themselves. I think right now there might be some kind of an attention that's going on. Like, I got to put this out here. One of my audience members says, oh, look at all the fans right now just basically singing praises, about Xbox. Because Xbox released one game, everybody now thinks, oh, Xbox is the best thing since, peanut butter or whatnot. And I'm like, no. That's not what everybody is saying. For the most part, what's going on is a lot of people for, the past year said Microsoft was not doing anything. Now Microsoft is doing something. What's the problem in people saying this is a good step forward? There shouldn't be any problem, because Sony has its Spider-Man game coming out very soon, which is going to do very well on its own Spider-Man platforms. So I think everyone understands where things are, but it seems like the amount of concern over what Xbox is doing is probably a little bit too much. And here's what's going to happen. There are PlayStation fans who maybe you think, Starfield is basically getting all of these praises sung over it, is the more you try to downplay it, you're going to continue to have that little effect where people say, what is this whole game that they're talking about? So best thing you can do for Starfield, if you actually don't think it's an impressive game and people shouldn't bother themselves, is to not even bother talking about it, because the more you talk about it, people are going to continue to, look into it and say, I wonder how good this game may be or how bad it is. I really want to know. I'm going to go get a Game Pass subscription. All you're doing is just giving the game more oxygen. Anyways, I just thought I'd put that out there and just talk about how this is just a crazy mess. It's quite funny to see overall, because as a PC player, I just like to watch this whole thing unfold. But I already kind of sensed a while ago that Microsoft was going to have something to offer pretty soon. I just didn't know how they were going to pull it off. I remember my first set of videos that I talked about, somewhere around 2019, 2018, when they brought in a bunch of money into the country from their offshore accounts. I did not know they were going to go crazy and start leaning their weight all over the place and try to at least spend Sony out of, their minds, because that's basically what they've done. I mean, the Bethesda acquisition, it really did make Sony spaz and go acquire Bungie. That was a very interesting acquisition, but it seemed like it worked out for, what Sony was planning to do anyways, which was actually channel like 55 to maybe possibly 60% of its investments into live service games. So the heat is on. It seems like Starfield is getting the attention that, it needed or deserved, whichever, camp you're in. That is still your own, interpretation, but at least it's still getting attention. And continually, for people who continually think that they're going to, in a sense, affect Starfield by, doing the Metacritic bombing and, the review bombing and all that stuff. Nah, you're just giving more news to, the people that are continuing to just talk more about Starfield. That's all that's going to happen. Because guess what's going to happen? By the time Spider-Man comes out, you know what people are going to do? They're going to come back here and say, oh, look at Spider-Man's wonderful scores and look at Starfield's scores. Ha, ha, ha. But it's just going to give more life to the Spider-Man game, or at least even to the Starfield game. And imagine those who don't have a PlayStation to play Spider-Man. What are they going to go do? Many of them are going to get a Game Pass subscription and they're going to still go play Starfield. So anyway, it just still kind of just works out itself for all parties. And anyone who may be trying to inflame something or think that they're going to downplay the game to maybe lose some credibility or whatnot, you're just wasting your time. But I thought I'd highlight this. I really enjoy doing this from time to time and just pointing out all of this stuff. It's really interesting. I'll talk to you guys in another video. Thank you very much for watching. Appreciate y'all so much. Peace out.